Let's talk a little bit about that. And Disney is a perfect example of using catchy taglines such as those, and the impact that they've
Mhm.
had on the children over the years.
You
People,
I
know,
mean,
just
it's
think about when they say, when you wish upon a star,
yes, exactly.
right? So, what is the star? The pentagram. It's
Mm-hmm.
the time-honored symbol of the magical arts. It stands for all magical symbols and talismans, and specifically, the five-pointed stars is the magician's sine qua non. It is representative of the material world and human mastery over it. But it also has other esoteric meanings. It's the 5 points of the pentagram symbolize the four elements plus spirit. And so when you
Mm-hmm.
see it pointed up, it's pointing towards God or spirit. And then if you invert it, so all magic has the reverse side, and that's black magic. So there's
Mm-hmm.
white magic and black magic, and there's black magic has no symbols of its own. It's only an inverted power.
Okay, got you.
So if you turn it upside down, it's known as the sigil of Baphomet. I'm sure you've seen that, the star of Set, the goat head inside
Yep.
the Ouroboros. Okay, this is the god of the Sabbath of sorcerers, and it represents the power of darkness combined with the generative fertility of the goat, or the goat
Mm.
of Mendes.
and people don't relate any of this stuff to Walt Disney or even Steven Spielberg, who is another one that's a master at this type of programming. And
Yes, exactly.
Disney, unbeknownst to the most of the world, is actually a military industrial complex, a military industrial corporation gathering that then programs children to warfare. And this was shown dramatically in their early renditions in their first films, that when the military took over Disney Studios and they started to produce wartime propaganda.
Yeah.
Whoa,
Yeah.
wait a minute. They took over. Tell us about that. They took
Uh,
over the studios?
In 1941, when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor and the U.S. officially entered World War II, the next day, Walt Disney arrived to work at the studio in Burbank to find that it had been commandeered as a primary defense station to guard against the nearby Lockheed plant against a possible airstrike. And all
Wow.
his film equipment was replaced by anti-aircraft weaponry, and the parking lot was filled to capacity with crates of ammunition and jeeps. So Disney was outraged when he learned that his was the only studio to be turned into a makeshift military base. And during this occupation, the studio became a virtual war factory with well over 90% of its production in the service of government training and education and propaganda films.
I mean, you can watch Disney cartoons on how to load your anti-tank weapon.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Was
Yep.
that Disney
Yep.
on the
boast
Disney on the front lines?
Disney
Yeah.
on the front lines actually
Yeah.
boasts how Donald Duck did more to get people to pay their income taxes than all of the propaganda campaigns combined. The
Wow.
Nazis were so taken by Disney's ability to program people to do all the things necessary for war that Joseph Goebbels, the Nazi propagandist, actually adopted Walt Disney's methods and started making cartoons of their own to
Wow.
program the Nazi children to warfare.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a classic 1943 version of Chicken Little, and you can clearly see the outline of modern day mind control at work in this story, where you're introduced to a coop of chickens that mirror human society. And so they have the lead big man on campus, the rooster, Cocky Locky, and he's the main chicken inspector, supervisor, and then they have the other classes of society, like the knitting birds and the gossiping birds and the birds that love going to the bar, and just and then there's Chicken Little. He's a little naive new egg, but they say he's generally a good egg. And then there's Foxy Loxy, and he's the sly hungry fox who ponders the best way to catch a chicken, and he's put off by this tall fence. So he decides, why should he jump into the coop and risk his life to catch one chicken when he can use psychology to get all of them where he wants to go? And so he has this little red book that he quotes out of during the cartoon, and the first tenet is, if you tell him a lie, don't tell him a little one, tell a big one. And this is straight out of Mein Kampf.
Yeah.
Wow,
Hitler said,
yeah.
if you tell them a lie, they won't believe it unless it's grandiose.
They were actually going to use Mein Kampf on the cover of the book, but then they had to switch it in the end, and so then you'll see that the cover simply says psychology at this point.
Wow. Yeah.
And we kind of equate Alex Jones with Chicken Little.
Well, yeah. I mean, in the film, the fox, he steals a piece of wood with a
Yeah.
5-pointed pentagram painted on it, and he throws it over the fence, and it hits Chicken Little in the head. And Chicken Little's all dazed by this, pentagram. And the fox whispers through the fence, "This is the voice of doom, and the sky is falling." And so Chicken Little rushes to warn all the other little chickens to show them the proof and the star and the bump on his head. He's got evidence, right?
Yeah.
And so the chickens are all frightened until Cocky Locky appears as the voice of reason and identifies the star as just a piece of wood, and the sky's not falling. So the fox is temporarily foiled, but he has other techniques up his sleeve. So he goes back to his book, and his book says, undermine the faith of the masses and their leaders.
Oh my gosh.
So the fox infiltrates the different social groups, speaking to the fence, little voices in their heads. He's spreading rumors and provoking the chickens to fight amongst themselves, and they demote Cocky Locky as the king of the roost because he's not believing in all of their
propaganda.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So then the fox goes back to his book and he says, by the use of flattery, insignificant people can be made to look upon themselves as born leaders. And the fox convinces Chicken Little that it is his turn now, that Cocky Locky has fallen out of favor and he should be the one to step up and lead the chickens. So he screams that he's their new leader and begins to debate about the validity of the claims the sky is falling. Then the fox throws another star over the fence and it hits Cocky Locky in the head. And all the chickens witness this event. It's kind of like a false flag.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they all run to Chicken Little for guidance. And so the fox counsels him to rush everyone to the caves and break down their secure fence in the process out of the protection of the farmer and his shotgun. And he leads them right down a path set up by the fox. And the moral of the story at the end is don't believe everything you read.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the fox was like, well, you didn't think this was going to turn out good, did you? Because he's got them all in his belly now.
Well, he's picking his teeth.
Yeah.
Don't believe everything
Now,
you
if
read.
I could just add a modern representation of this, now they've come out with a new version of Chicken Little. And I think it's even in like high-def 3D animation. This new Chicken Little actually portrays an acorn hitting Chicken Little in the head, and then the foe at the end is actually an alien invasion, which turned out to be a fake invasion because they weren't actually evil aliens. But when we start to look at the puzzle that we're in now, and as they start to promote this alien invasion, the event, you name it. Well, Barack Obama was actually brought into office through a group known as Acorn, and will be bringing about a false alien invasion. So already they've got the programming
Look at this,
Crazy, right?
Yeah, and it's always right in front of, it's like, it's so blatant that, like you said, Jamie, once you start to look for it or know what you're looking for or start to see the symbols, it really is everywhere. I mean, I even say that on our website. It's like, where is it? Look around. Everywhere. It really is.
Let's list off some of the concepts that Disney has brought to the forefront. Some things that strike my mind are things like The Little Mermaid. Well, let's start with, if you don't mind me playing host for a second.
No, not at all.
Of them killing the mother and what psychological effect this has and why they kill the mother or these girls have no mother. Or like, one of my favorite scenarios, Finding Nemo, where the barracuda comes and eats his mom in the first 5 minutes. You can pretty much guarantee if you're going to turn on a Disney horror film such as The Little Mermaid or Tangled, you're going to find that the mom is killed immediately.
Always. Even Bambi all the way through. All the way through.
What we're looking at here is the destruction of the family unit, because the family unit is the first best defense against dark forces.
Mm-hmm.
And your mother is the chief of that. And so when you look at all these princesses, the main ones that they promote, you got Snow White, Belle, Ariel, Jasmine, Sleeping Beauty, and Cinderella.
Yes.
So what do all these girls have in common? They don't have a mother. Snow White's mother, actually, she's the evil stepmother, right? She's trying to kill her because Snow White's so beautiful.
Yeah, there's always one of those.
Belle doesn't have a mom. She's just omitted from the story. Ariel doesn't have a mom. She has 7 sisters, but they suck in the story and they don't have her at all. Jasmine has no mother. Princess Rose, or Sleeping Beauty, she's not raised by her mother. She's raised by 3 fairies. Of course, we have Cinderella, who is also raised by an evil stepmother, and her sisters are awful. So
Now tangled.
what they're doing is destroying every type of feminine instinct and bond that we have.
Oh my God.
And
Yeah.
making
Yep.
girls, instead of sisters, they're making them into rivals. And so instead of
Yeah.
loving mother-daughter sister relationships, all we have is
Competitive
girls.
rivalry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then along with this, well, let's continue on with the idea of the destruction of the feminine, because now this leaves the girls with nothing. But of course, this is great for Hollywood because now they can produce shows like Bridezilla.
Oh yeah. Goodness.
Bridezilla comes from a schism in the mind that happens when the girls come of age who have been watching all these fairy tales their whole life and trying to live their existence as a princess, and they have no archetypes or role models for the full moon phase of their life, which is motherhood, womanhood, the most powerful part of your life. And in the fairy tale, the curtain ends after you say I do. And so once you produce a child, you're pretty much dead. And so all these women are going through this phase in their life where the wedding is the penultimate experience of their entire life, and they have nothing else after that because it's just a blank slate. They have no programming.
The only programming that they might get from in their moon phase would be Sex in the City, which is actually scripted by all homosexual males.
Yeah. So
Yes. Yep.
is a replacement of the mother goddess with the warrior goddess. And we can talk about that because, all the goddesses that they worship and that you can find in memorials are all dedicated to war. There's no nurturing mother goddess. It's always the violent military goddess.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I call it is, their Project Crazy Bitch.
Perfect.
If you talk to as many people as I do, you'll realize that there's something wrong with girls.
Yes. Oh, very much so. Yeah.
And I'm trying to tell you that it's because of the programming. They're going crazy at this moment in life. And it also has to do with, trauma-based mind control. Look at all the lyrics of the songs that have the word crazy in it.
Oh, wow.
Britney Spears sings, "You Drive Me Crazy." Hannah Montana sings, "Let's Get Crazy." Taylor Swift says, "You make me crazy, you're crazy, you're crazier." Beyonce says, "You got me looking so crazy right now," Madonna says, "Crazy for you." Rihanna says, "What's wrong with me? I'm going crazy now." So this has a lot of esoteric meanings for these girls, deeper than just being a little crazy, because they were actually traumatized and programmed as multiples. If you know about trauma-based mind control.
Yes.
That when they reach about 27, 28, the world starts to make sense to them and they realize what's been happening to them. And they start to deprogram. So then you've got Britney Spears, attacking paparazzi with umbrellas and being rushed to the hospital because she's got multiple personality disorder. She's shaving her head. She's going crazy.
Yep. A lot of male musicians at that age have committed suicide, and I mean, it's not just with the girls; it's with the boys as well.
Yeah.
And you often find with these male representations, such as Jim Morrison or John Lennon, that they will have a witch attached to them. Like Yoko Ono.
Yeah.
Remember the name of Jim Morrison's witch?
Pamela.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's the goddess of crazy is Kali, the Indian blood goddess. She's pictured trampling over men with a belt of men's heads, and she's lusting for blood. And this is also an aspect of Aleister Crowley's goddess, Babylon. So it's a Crowley, Scarlet Woman, Babylon trinity.
Oh, wow.
That he's trying to bring about.
Of Kali fornication.
Uh-huh.
Right. Let's talk about sex, baby.
Let's talk about sex.
They're totally programming these children into the sexual traits, and as we know now, they're trying to make all this sex education into even, I think, kindergarten.
Yeah.
Miley Cyrus, in her song, she says, for those who don't know me, I can get a bit crazy. I have to get my way 24 hours a day because I'm hot like that.
Now, of course, this was Hannah Montana's breakout, right? As she transformed from Hannah Montana, which is a split dual personality concept, so that you're presenting one person of yourself to one group of people and a false person to the other, but they're actually both false, right? So Hannah Montana.
This happens a lot in the music industry. Yeah.
Exactly. She is the representation of the split dual personality, or DID, dissociative association.
And her name goes back to Inanna, the Sumerian goddess of war.
Hannah of the Mountain is Inanna. But I
Well,
was
it's
going to
the
say
glorification
that
of
song,
secrets, keeping secrets, and living hidden lives